This is a photograph from April 2018. Two men in matching white lab coats walking through a semiconductor facility in Wuhan, China. One of them is Xi Jinping, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. The other is Zhao Weiguo, a businessman most people outside the chip industry have never heard of. At the time, Unigroup, the partially state owned semiconductor company, was 5 years into its aggressive campaign to design and manufacture more advanced chips, a campaign inspired in large part by Comrade Xi Jinping's wish to end China's reliance on foreign suppliers and further indigenize the supply chain. The photo seemed to offer proof that everything was proceeding as planned, but that is not the complete picture. The story begins in 1957 when Zhao Weiguo's parents were sent to Xinjiang during an anti-rightist campaign led by the Communist Party. As political exiles, Zhao's parents met there and eventually married to settle and start a new life. Zhao was born in 1967, right as the Cultural Revolution was ongoing during the end of Chairman Mao's tenure. His childhood was mostly spent herding goats in a remote village. After Chairman Mao died, Zhao's family was rehabilitated. Zhao studied hard enough to get into Tsinghua University in Beijing, which is considered as one of the most prestigious schools in China and the world. He studied electronic engineering, but what really caught his attention was a translated copy of Silicon Valley Fever, a book about Apple and Hewlett Packard that has inspired him since then. After graduation, he worked in Zhongguancun. He fixed televisions on the side for extra cash. In 1997, a professor who recognized his business instincts recommended him to run a new electronics company called Tsinghua Tongfang. It was connected to the university but struggling. Zhao had a talent for acquisitions. He bought a state-owned military supplier, turned it into a profitable company, making equipments for power plants. He invested in a healthcare website and sold it before the dot-com bubble burst. But his real break came with real estate. Zhao was appointed chairman of a gas company in Xinjiang and discovered that property development in the region was printing money. The government was pouring investment into Xinjiang, trying to develop it, and Zhao formed a real estate joint venture. During this chain of projects, he got into contact with Hu Huaifeng, son of then President Hu Jintao. He impressed Chen Shi, a Politburo member and a close ally of Xi Jinping. In 2010, Zhao donated 100 million yuan to Tsinghua University, and Chen Shi was there for the ceremony. In 2009, Zhao took over Tsinghua Unigroup, a semiconductor company that was going nowhere. 4 years later, Beijing published its National Integrated Circuit Plan. In this strategy, China was going to domesticate 70% of its semiconductor needs by 2025. To achieve this, Beijing flooded the industry with an estimated $100 billion. Zhao capitalized on this push. He started acquisition of various companies within the sector, such as Spectrum Communications and RDA Microelectronics. He merged them into Unisoc, now one of China's largest mobile phone chip designers. He took a stake in HP's Chinese server business for $3 billion and established a partnership with Intel. He poached talent from abroad, offering salaries 5 times higher than what they were making at home. Charles Kao, Chinese Taipei's godfather of memory chips, joined Unigroup in 2015. Observing this stream of mergers and acquisitions, people started calling Zhao the semiconductor madman. By 2015, Unigroup hit a market cap of $7.6 billion. Zhao himself was worth over $2 billion. The former goat herder had become one of the most powerful people in the global chip industry. In 2015, Zhao visited Taiwan and tried to buy a stake in TSMC, the largest chip manufacturer in the world. Maurice Chang, TSMC's founder, reportedly told him he could not afford it. The same year, Unigroup bid $23 billion for Micron Technology, America's largest memory chip company. Congress, as usual, stepped in. The Committee on Foreign Investment blocked it on national security grounds. Unigroup then tried to merge with MediaTek, a Taiwanese chip designer. This deal also failed to get approval from the government. This was followed by a string of deals that was rejected or did not result in fruition. Clearly, Zhao was frustrated. He kept insisting that these business deals were not political ones meant to gain political influence outside of China. But most people in the industry knew that buying TSMC or Micron is near to impossible. These incidents explained that even if Zhao was good at spending money and making acquisitions inside China, outside China he was more of an amateur in the domain of mergers and acquisitions. At home, however, Unigroup kept growing. In 2017, the company announced new investments, a massive $15 billion from China Development Bank and $7 billion from National Chip Fund. But the company's debt was piling up. All the spending, all those acquisitions had put up a huge bill on the company's finances. By 2020, Unigroup was in a tough position. In 2021, the company defaulted on $2.5 billion in international bonds, as the total debt stood around $30 billion. The government, of course, could not let such a prestigious player fail, thus, it ordered a restructuring. A state backed fund called the JAC Capital, run by a financier named Li Bin, offered to buy out Unigroup for $9 billion. Zhao was offended because he thought that the price offered for it was too low. He called it an intent to commit a crime against him and the company and said that he would fight a legal battle to the end. It was a battle between someone who wanted to be a princeling and someone who actually was. However, Zhao went ahead and filed corruption allegations while JAC filed back, and this became a messy legal battle in China's history. The result, in April 2022, JAC completed its purchase. This was followed by Zhao's arrest after around 3 months of the legal battle. Alongside Zhao, a dozen of other leaders from China's state-managed semiconductor industry, the Minister of Industry and Information Technology, the manager of the National Chip Fund, and also others connected to the fund, from academics to venture capitalists, were charged for serious violations of discipline and law. No one knows exactly what happened. Elite politics in China are often less transparent than usual. Some say the arrests were about corruption, while others say it was about Beijing's frustration with slow progress of the semiconductor industry. A lot of companies have been unjustifiably overstating their achievements in the domain while doing zero groundwork, and alongside that, the ambitious goals set in 2014 have faced a major roadblock into American sanctions and export controls. There is a political angle offered by academics too. Zhao was friendly with Hu Jintao's son, and maybe he was seen as a part of the old regime, as someone who belonged to a different era, when China's approach to semiconductor was about throwing money at the problem and hoping for breakthroughs. Since 2018, the US has been tightening restrictions on semiconductor technology flowing to China. In October 2022, the Biden administration introduced the toughest restrictions yet. YMTC, one of Unigroup's crown jewels and an Apple supplier, was placed on the entity list. The United States has been trying everything in its power to curtail China's technological development with blatant policy aggression to harm China's gradual development. The tech war had gone from cold to hot in a matter of few years, as a lot of other companies like Huawei, HiSilicon had faced a string of restrictions and had to redevelop their strategy to win back in this competitive space. In this time, America passed the CHIPS Act, $280 billion with $52 billion in subsidies for chip firms operating in the United States. Europe followed the USA and proposed a similar legislation. Taiwan became more defensive about its semiconductor talent. Workers who used to see mainland opportunities as career advances started to see them as risky bets. But this does not mean that China has been slowed down in any significant manner to gradually develop productive forces that can compete on the global stage. China's semiconductor strategy, the one Zhao helped to build, is simply being adapted to change and develop. Unigroup, under new management, seems to be taking a strong plan ahead. Li Bin, the princeling who brought it out, sent a letter to staff denouncing Zhao's erratic leadership and promised to give it a fresh start. He said that Unigroup was ready to go and compete globally. What that means is putting heavy money into R&D and develop breakthroughs, technologies that do not make money in the short term but are strategically vital for the long run, like ultraviolet lithography machines, which China is currently blocked from accessing by the West. Some analysts compare it to nuclear weapons. Countries will pour any amount of resources into acquiring technology they think they need for survival. What happened to Zhao is still unfolding. His legacy is complicated. He built significant companies such as Unisoc and YMTC, which are major players in the global chip industry. but he also overspent, over-leveraged, and overpromised. He represented an era of Chinese tech ambition that believed money and determination could overcome any obstacle. That era seems to be over, since the new reality is filled with American aggression, fueled with sanctions, restrictions, and a recognition that catching up cutting edge of the semiconductor technology is harder than anyone thought. Perhaps Zhao was the right person for China's semiconductor industry in 2014. By 2022, he was not, and thus replaced. Because sometimes the world changes faster than the people in it.